Madam Deputy Speaker, after today's announcement, let there be no doubt about who is winning the battle of ideas in Britain. It is the Labour Party. Today it feels like the Chancellor has finally realised the problems that the country are facing. We first called for a windfall tax on oil and gas producers nearly 5 months ago to help struggling families and pensioners. Today he has announced that policy, but he can't dare say the words. It's a policy that dare not speak its name with this Chancellor. And it was Labour that first highlighted the unfairness of this government's buy now, pay later compulsory loan scheme. It shouldn't have taken a rocket scientist to work out that this wouldn't cut it, and we pointed it out at the time. But that is just the mark of this Klarner Chancellor. Announce now, ditch later. Here he is, once again, the Treasury's one-man rebuttal unit, the Chancellor himself. For months, it has been clear that more was necessary to help people bring their bills down. So what took this government so long? Every day that they have refused to act, £53 million more added to Britain's household bills during this cost of living crisis. This government's dither and delay has cost our country dearly. On this side of the House, we welcome the fact that the government is finally acting on our calls to introduce a windfall tax.
Absolutely. Our calls.
And it's good to see the SNP U-turning today too and saying that they also are in favour of a windfall tax on oil and gas profits. Well done to the SNP. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, it was a painful journey to get the government to this point. First, Conservative ministers said the oil and gas producers are struggling. That was the Education Secretary, I think. But then the BP Chief Executive said that the energy crisis was a cash machine for his business. So they moved to the second defence. Ministers claimed that a windfall tax would put off vital investment. But the industry said that a windfall tax wouldn't even change their plans. So then they said that a windfall tax would be unconservative. So unconservative, Madam Deputy Speaker, that Margaret Thatcher, George Osborne and now this government are doing exactly that. And finally, the Chancellor himself said that it would be silly to offer help now, given that he didn't know the full scale of the challenge. What nonsense. It shouldn't take £500,000 of publicly funded focus groups for the Chancellor to realise that helping families and pensioners is exactly the right thing to do. Now, every day for 5 months, the Prime Minister sent Conservative MPs out to attack the windfall tax and yet defend an increase in taxes on working people. He's made them vote against it, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And for months he's sent his MPs to defend the litany of rule-breaking in number 10 Downing Street set out in the Sue Gray report yesterday. Now, there is a lesson here for Conservative MPs. You can't believe a word that this Prime Minister says. And as long as he is in office, he's going to continue making fools out of each and every one of you. If they keep him there, Madam Deputy Speaker, that is the choice that they are making. Now, the problem, Madam Deputy Speaker, is that you can't fake fairness. You either believe in it or you don't. Labour called for a windfall tax because it is the right thing to do. The Conservatives are doing it because they needed a new headline. And we see that too from all the other things that the Chancellor didn't address today. The non-DOMs keeping their tax privileges while they increase taxes on working people. Young working people paying more, but those who earn money buying and selling stocks and shares not paying a penny more. Contracts handed out to Conservative friends and donors while British businesses miss out. global tech giants making billions in profits, while smaller businesses and the energy-intensive industry struggle with higher bills and higher taxes from the Conservative Party. And £11.8 billion lost in fraud because of a total lack of respect for taxpayers' money. That's why we should have had an emergency budget today, to spike the hike in national insurance, to cut business rates for high street and small businesses, to provide help for energy-intensive firms and ensure that every pound of taxpayers' money is spent wisely. Madam Deputy Speaker, we will look closely at the detail of today's announcements. Of course, most of them seem to have been written by us, but so far, we have seen nothing to suggest that this Conservative government has the ideas or the energy to tackle the challenges that we face as a country. A Labour government would have addressed the underlying weaknesses in our economy so we can stop this spiral of inflation, lift wages and provide greater security for families and for our country. The truth is that they are running our economy and people's living standards into the ground. We are forecast to have the slowest growth and the highest inflation in the G7. This government has weakened the foundations of our economy, leaving us exposed to shocks as we lurch from crisis to crisis. And still they refuse to come forward with a real plan to fix our broken system and provide the security we need to face the future with confidence. That means boosting our energy security too. We need to do much more to reduce reliance on imported oil and gas. That is why Labour's energy security plan includes a programme of home insulation to reduce bills not just for 1 year but for years to come, and to get us all the way to net zero. It's why we've urged the government to double onshore wind capacity and to end the delay on nuclear power.
Absolutely.
And while we're at it, why did this Tory government get rid of our gas storage?
Order. It's important that we also hear the Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves.
And Madam Deputy Speaker, while we're at it, why did this Tory government get rid of our gas storage, which would have left us better protected from wild fluctuations in prices? When will this government provide the strong leadership that this country needs? Now, there are a number of questions for the Chancellor about his announcement today. How many people are still waiting for the support that they were promised in March? A third of the Chancellor's own constituents are still waiting for their council tax discounts. Is it the case that households are still being asked to pay the supplier of last resort costs for those energy suppliers who have gone bust as a result of a decade of failed energy market regulation? Can the Chancellor tell the House how is this package being funded outside of the proceeds of a windfall tax? And if you have more than one home, do you get multiple discounts on your energy bills? Now, I know that the Chancellor has adopted 2 of our ideas today, but can I ask why he has not adopted a third? A cut in VAT on energy bills. It was once touted as the big Brexit bonus, but he's ditched that too. Madam Deputy Speaker, this is a discredited, chaotic and rudderless Conservative government whose policies rarely last more than a few months. We pushed for a windfall tax. They adopted it. We said the buy now, pay later scheme was wrong, and now they have ditched it. This government is out of ideas, out of touch and out of time. When it comes to the big issues facing this country, the position is now clear. We lead, they follow.
Right. Order. We're not going any further unless you're quiet. Fine. Thank you. Chairman of the Select Committee, Mel Stride. Oh, I beg your pardon. It would be best if I allow the Chancellor first to reply to the Shadow Chancellor. I'm not trying to change the rules. I'm just trying to go a bit faster.
What's he going to say?
Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Say thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I thank the honourable lady opposite for her contribution, albeit her response was based on a fundamental misunderstanding of why now is the right time to act. Since February and March, 3 significant things have changed. The situation in Ukraine has altered considerably from first envisaged. Inflation is now tackling considerably higher than previously expected. And finally, and most importantly, we now have concrete information on the autumn and winter energy price cap. And with this information, we were better able to both design and scale our policies. It is why, with time and thought, our energy profits levy has a very generous investment allowance built into it, not something, the blunt instrument that the party opposite proposed. And that is why, Madam Deputy Speaker, because we were patient, we have been able to scale our support for the problem, which means our proposals are in fact more generous than those offered by the party opposite. Because they rushed it, they got their sums wrong. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, we all make mistakes, and being able to change course is not a weakness, it is a strength. And I won't criticise the party opposite for getting it wrong, just so long as they can acknowledge that with this package, we have got it right. Just briefly, Madam Deputy Speaker, to address some of the specific points. The honourable lady, I think, talked about energy security and somewhat bizarrely reflected on the lack of investment in nuclear capacity. Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, this is the government that is correcting the mistakes of the past. She asked about energy efficiency. This is the government that is investing £6 billion to improve energy efficiency. She asked about business rates. This is the government that is delivering a 50% discount in business rates for our high streets next year. And, of course, she talked about growth. Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, one of the best ways to drive growth is to drive up business investment, something the party opposite will never understand. She also asked about VAT, Madam Deputy Speaker, and this goes to the heart of the issue. VAT is worth, on average, about £140 of support. Yeah. Our policy, universally, to all households in this country, is worth £400. Yeah. That is the reason not to do VAT. What we are doing is far more generous. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, the final point I will make, because I know we're pressed for time, is about ideas. For our constituents, there are only good ideas and bad ideas, and whether you can do anything about them. And this government can, because we are always on the side of the British people. This government has been faced with challenges unlike any other, and at every step it has achieved things that the party opposite said were not possible. We averted the mass unemployment crisis they predicted because of our interventions of furlough. We led the country out of COVID with a vaccine programme they would have left us unable to deliver. And each time I'm at this dispatch box opposite the honourable lady, I find myself thinking the same thing. The public can see through it. They know the difference. They know the difference between a party playing politics and a government trying to help.
Thank you. Enough. Enough. And now we will hear from the Chairman of the Select Committee, Mel Strides.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I commend this announcement broadly? It is a very significant intervention that my right honourable friend has made, channelling billions of pounds in a targeted series of transfer payments into those who most need it. But as my right honourable friend will know, similar approaches were taken in the pandemic. There were many who missed out from support, who fell through the gaps. I note the additional increase in the household fund of £500 million, which is welcome. Can my right honourable friend set out to the House how he arrived at that figure and why he feels that will be adequate for the demand? And could I also ask him about the issue of inflation that he raised? These transfer payments will stimulate the economy. Granted, they will come with some tax increases as well, but could he share with the House his assessment of the inflationary impact of the announcement that he has just made? And finally, will he appear before the Treasury Select Committee immediately after recess so that we can look at these matters in greater detail?
Madam Deputy Speaker, I thank my right honourable friend for his questions. I thank him also for his thoughtful advice on how best the government should respond to the current situation. That's why we put the Household Support Fund in place with extra support, because very specifically the one group of those on means-tested benefits that we cannot deliver money to automatically are those who receive only housing benefit, because that's administered by local authorities, which is the main group that needs that specific help. But of course there may well be others, which is why the fund is there. And in terms of the inflationary impact, I do believe it will be manageable. He's right to highlight it, which is why it's important that the support we provide is both targeted, where it can make the most difference, that it's temporary, and that it is timely and gets help where required. And that is a right approach. Being fiscally responsible is going to help us combat inflation in the long run.